Hello and welcome back. In this episode, I want to talk to you about the power of gathering social proof from existing clients or just individuals who have worked with you to achieve the health or well-being transformation that you provide. And I'd love for you to understand why it is that so many wellness experts don't have the breadth or depth of social proof that they quite frankly could have if given a powerful strategy to use to gather that evidence. So we often refer to social proof as testimonials in a service-based business, and that's exactly what I want for you to have in your business. Why are testimonials so useful, so powerful? Well, it's because of a concept called trust transfer. So think about it. If somebody says to you, hey, I've been wearing these new trainers or running shoes and they're just so comfortable, they're so light, they feel amazing, they're buttery soft. I think they're the most comfortable shoes that I have ever worn in my life. You don't even need to know the brand of those shoes to already be intrigued about what they might be like having a pair in your own life, right? The reality is that as soon as you find out that brand, the trust that you have built with them has transferred from that close friend or person in your inner circle who was telling you about them onto you. So your relationship with that brand is immediately much closer and powerful and ignited and energized than it otherwise would be if you were coming across them for the first time. And such is social proof for your business. It helps somebody who is discovering you for the first time, who we would call a cold audience member, someone who has never met you before or is in the early stages of their discovery journey with you, to really get a sense of who you are from the experience of others. They will experience in understanding how somebody else has found the process of working with you, a sense of empathy and connection. Or at the very least, they will see that you're the right person to help them to solve the problem that they have. So very quickly, let's talk about, 3 of the main reasons that most wellness experts or health practitioners don't get testimonials. And it's not that you don't get great results. It's not that you aren't transforming the lives or the health of the clients that you work with. It's not that at all. It's usually one of 3 things, and I want to share those with you now. So the first reason that most wellness experts don't get social proof or don't gather social proof and therefore don't have it to use is that you're simply not asking for it. And the reason that this often happens is because we have a sense in our, probably slightly self-absorbed minds or even self-conscious minds that if you have created a transformation for your client and they loved it, then surely they will volunteer to provide a testimonial for you. Unfortunately, the world does not work that way. So your client may well have had, and I have no doubt that they may well have had a fantastic experience working with you. They may well have transformed their life. They may well have resolved the symptoms that they came to you to get help with. But that doesn't mean that they necessarily have the motivation or the time or even the know-how to actually give you that testimonial that is going to help your business. They don't necessarily understand the strategy of what we're talking about now and how powerful having positive reviews on your business from confirmed clients can be for your overall brand. And therefore, they're not going to volunteer their time and energy to provide that for you without you asking them. So the first reason that you may not be getting testimonials is because you're simply not asking for them. And I'm going to give you a little bit of insight in this episode into how I recommend you ask for testimonials so that you get the best testimonial, the best social evidence, or the best social proof possible. The second reason that you may not be gathering the amount of social proof or testimonials that you could be is because you're asking your clients for them, but your client is just never getting around to it. And sometimes this is about timing. So your client just hasn't found the time. They're probably a busy individual. Most people are. Most people have a lot going on in their world, and this is something that they need to provide to you voluntarily. So they're not getting around to it. And, it may be because of that time limitation. It may also be because your client just doesn't know how to provide a testimonial. So it's that sense of sitting down to record it or film it or write it and feeling blocked, like a lot of us do when we have a task that we're doing for the first time. Your inner monologue, your inner critic says, well, I'm not going to be very good at this. I'm not a very good writer. Or, for your client, it might be, I'm nervous in front of camera. I don't know what to say. I don't know even how to set a camera up so that I can film it. And it sounds crazy, but these simple things are often the parts of providing a testimonial that your client is struggling with more than the will or the desire to provide it for you. So they want to, the will is there, but maybe the logistical know-how or just the structure of providing it is missing. If that is the reason, we're going to help you to overcome that in this episode. The third reason that you might not be gathering social proof, if you're doing the first two things right, you're asking your client, you're giving them a structure to give that testimonial and feedback and giving them instructions on how to do it, is this final one. And this is particularly relevant in the health and wellness space. And I've come across this excuse, whether vocalized or not, from your clients many, many times over the years. And that is that often your clients, when they have achieved a well-being transformation, and that means going from really horrible symptoms or suffering or pain or discomfort or whatever it is that they were struggling with when they got to you, to a fantastic outcome, is a very personal transformational journey. It's not like, for example, my clients who, were perhaps stuck in their business and then worked with me through our Consistent Clients program or my high level mastermind and achieved a fantastic tangible outcome of growing their business. A personal health journey is just that. It's very personal. It's very private for a lot of people. And whilst we like to share the outcome, we don't always like to share the messy middle. And the messy middle is powerful for your potential clients to hear about because it creates that empathy, connection, sense of relatability. And it's kind of what you want your social proof to also include. You want your successful clients to be sharing where they were when they found you and what it is they've achieved with you, and therefore what they've been able to achieve, which was not possible beforehand. We want to see that whole hero's journey from struggle to positive result or outcome. And if it's private, then the resistance may be that not that your client doesn't want to, not that they don't have the framework, not that they don't want to or want to make time to provide a testimonial for you, but simply because they would rather not be named publicly for the transformation that they've been through. And you can imagine, perhaps if it were a mental health journey, an emotional well-being journey, maybe you support your clients with relationships with themselves or others. Maybe you support them with performance, or, maybe it's taboo subjects, like you help your client with, IBS or bloating, or, something to do with a subject that frankly people just don't want their friends and family knowing about or being seen as being related to in the public eye. We can all understand why that is. So perhaps it is that your clients don't want to be made public. So I'm going to give you a little strategy in a moment to help you to get over that hurdle. So I'm going to guide you through very quickly a foolproof method for gathering social proof in your business. And we're going to do this step by step. So if you are taking notes, that's going to be really helpful. You might want to listen back to this episode and take notes. And I'll also summarize this for you in the show notes to make it super easy for you to know exactly how to gather social proof so that you can skyrocket your business with the benefit of that trust transfer concept that I talked about before. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to ask your client for a testimonial. But the timing of this is everything. We want to ask them to provide the testimonial before the program is complete. Why? Because if your client has concluded their work with you, then, they are ultimately going to be getting on with their life, moving on with the progress that they have achieved with you, and have probably kind of lost that connection with you in some ways. Not always, but the point of the timing of asking for a testimonial from your client before they finish the program or before they finish their sessions working with you is so that we still have their attention. And more than that, it's so that we still have it fresh in your client's mind as far as, where they were when they started, the journey that they've been on, and the transformation that they have experienced. So we're going to schedule a dedicated conversation to gather this social proof. And the best way that I recommend for my clients is to actually schedule it as an interview, schedule it as a session. And ideally, it would be a video session because gathering some video testimonial is really powerful. People come to life in video, but they're often quite nervous about filming a video themselves. So if you can construct it like an interview, it's a win-win scenario because you get the video testimonial, which is really powerful and compelling, and your client gets to be guided through the provision of that social proof or the provision of that insight into their journey with you in a really easy, structured way. They're being asked questions by you in an interview format rather than having to press record on a camera at home in their own space and feel a little bit unsure about, how to structure it, what to say, when to say it. And people, frankly, just get nervous in those scenarios. So you're going to ask them to provide that testimonial before they finish the program, and you're going to do it in a way that is a scheduled interview. You might want to position that as a closing session, a session where they can provide you with feedback about their experience with you. And then we're going to be very clear in that you're going to let that client know that you want to film a testimonial so that you can gather some insight to either use as video or to use as written testimonial. And we want to be transparent. We don't want to spring it upon your client. If it's being videoed, then let's be honest, your client's going to want to be camera ready. And if it's just a normal session, then they may not always be prepared to be filmed and have that content publicly displayed on the internet. And that's totally fair enough. So we're going to give them a really clear heads up that this is going to be filmed, that you'd like to film a testimonial at the end of this conversation, and we're going to get it scheduled in. Now, that is very different to asking someone to do it whenever they have a spare moment. We're going to schedule it into the calendar like a session so that your client shows up, so that you show up, so that it happens. We want to communicate, and I'm going to get in a moment to that point about resistance from your client being publicly facing with their testimonial. But we're going to want to communicate really clearly how this recording or transmission of information is actually going to work, because the more clarity, the more certainty that your client has, the more comfortable they're going to feel about it. It's just human nature that we want that certainty, that we want that clarity about what's going to happen next. So you're going to let them know that you are going to be filming them if it's okay with them, get that approval, that you're going to be offering a process of collecting feedback from them, and maybe even give them a few questions to prepare in advance. So the questions that I typically ask for my clients giving social proof there are 4 of them, and I'll share them with you now. The first one is, where were you before we started working together? And that allows them to share their challenges, what their life looked like, how they felt before they started the process. I asked them what they loved about working with me, with the program specifically, the details of the program that they liked, the structure, the format, the features and benefits, that type of thing. Then I talk about the transformation. So the third question that I ask is, what was useful? What was powerful about what you learnt in the process of us working together? And more importantly, what is possible for you now that wasn't possible before? And then the final question, and this is a really nice one for somebody else, your potential clients or leads watching it, is to ask your client what they would say to someone if they were listening and they were thinking about working with you, but not quite sure. They were, not quite sure about taking the next step. And how that usually translates is your client saying something like, hey, if you're sitting on the fence, you're thinking about working with Lauren or Jess or Steve or Barry, then you should go for it. This is how I felt. I was nervous. It was, scary. It was the first investment I've ever made in my health like this, but I did it. And my life is completely transformed, and yours can be too. And just framing that final question as an opportunity for your client to speak directly to that person, thinking about it, deliberating it on the fence, is so, so powerful when received by your potential client who will be watching this video on your website, on your sales page, on your social media, or whatever it might be. Okay, so we're going to communicate those questions to your client in advance of our call with them so that they can prepare, so that they can think about it, so that they can actually have some time to construct some answers and maybe even take some notes. I've had clients in the past who have come prepared for that testimonial call with some notes, and that is the best way to gather a really high quality testimonial. Then we're going to let them know how you plan to use the testimonial. And here's the bit where we address that nervousness that your client might have. So in the same email where you're letting them know that you'd like to film a testimonial with them, that you would like to gather this, insight from them, you're also going to let them know that it's okay if they want to remain anonymous. And that if they would prefer to remain anonymous, then all they need to do is let you know. And that in the case that they are going to remain anonymous, you're only going to use a transcription, i.e. you're going to write down the takeaways from your client's experience that they share with you and use them without any name or association to that person's identity. And there are different degrees of that your client may agree to. They may agree to having their name used, but not their image. They may agree to having a written testimonial associated to their name, but not a video of that testimonial. They may agree to having their first name, which is great. They may agree to having their name, but not a photo of themselves, etc., etc. So offering them some flexibility in what publicly will be displayed is a really nice way of appeasing someone who has had an amazing experience with you, but feels nervous about being on camera or feels nervous about being publicly identified. So there's a way for us to still gather the evidence, but protect the identity of the client should they wish. So you're going to ask them for their preferences. Lots of people will say, no, I'm happy to be, publicly showcased. And you can encourage them to take that path by saying something like, so many people will be, and this is so true, so many people are going to be inspired by your journey. And I'd love to use you as a case study to help me to help more people. Would you be up for that? If you're not comfortable with that, there's an option for you to remain anonymous. And just presenting it like that reminds your client that, it's almost not a responsibility, but it's this sort of good deed that they can do by being an example for others that were where they were when they were struggling, to show others what's possible. And most people will want to be that inspiration for others despite their nerves about being public on video or with a photo of themselves. Okay, so we're going to give them the option in that communication to remain anonymous, but we're still going to schedule it as a video call. Once you have filmed that video, the best approach in my experience is to then actually cut yourself out from the video. So either editing it yourself or having somebody support you to edit it. Actually just remove yourself from the video asking the questions, and you've got then an opportunity to just cut up the sections of that testimonial where your client is speaking, is sharing their experience, and put that together into one succinct video or transcribe it into a really succinct piece of content. And there you have it. You have a fantastic high quality piece of social proof that you can use. And what I would encourage you to do if you haven't been through this process specifically with clients that you've had in the past is to not be afraid to retrospectively gather social proof from your clients that you've worked with in the past. even if it was years ago, reaching out with a request like this. I'm putting together some videos, I'm putting together some written testimonials from clients in the past. I'd love to use your story to inspire others. Would you be open to helping me? That's all you've got to ask. And when we go right back to the beginning of this episode where I talked about the main reasons why health and well-being experts are not gathering this social proof, the number one reason is because you just haven't asked. All of the other tools that I've given you in this episode are just about making it easier for yourself, making it easier for your client, and ultimately enabling you to gather the most powerful testimonial that you possibly can. I hope that you have found this useful. If you have, let me know. And as always, I'd love to connect with you on social media. Drop me a DM, connect with me, grab my free mini course. It's available in the show notes, in my bio on social media. If you found this useful and you want more tips and strategies on how to master the business side as a wellness expert or health practitioner, then I look forward to connecting with you again on the next episode. Thanks, guys. See you soon.